If you're a writer, you probably have 100 excuses for why you haven't finished your novel. Maybe you're juggling other commitments like work, family, or friends. Maybe you're building up a pod collection or whatever it is these guys are doing. Perhaps you've got writer's block and you don't know where to start. Or even worse, you've already started, but you have no idea how to finish. How to get this rough jumble of words to match up with the perfect version of the story in your head. Well, what if I told you that there was a way to fix that? That you could have a finished novel in your hands after just 30 days. That's the idea behind National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo for folks in the know. Every November, around 500,000 writers sign up to this online community, pledging to write a novel from scratch by the end of the month. They work to strict daily goals, typing so much their fingers go numb, probably so caffeinated they can actually see time, all in the hopes that by the end of it, they'll have something to show for their trouble. But is this a good idea? Is NaNoWriMo just a crash diet for writers? Or is there some magic behind the madness? Let's find out. NaNoWriMo has a simple premise. You sign up, then you set your goal. Generally speaking, you should aim to finish something brand new, and the goal should be quantifiable. I'm talking words, lots of words, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. Once you've settled on your big number, you break that down into smaller numbers. So if you wanted to write 50,000 words in 30 days, you'd need to average about 1,600 words a day. Every day, you record your total word count on the website, and it tracks your stats with some fancy looking charts and gives you badges when you hit certain milestones that you can share with the online community. Sounds pretty simple, right? Maybe even a fun challenge? Now, I don't want to just shit all over the premise of NaNoWriMo, although fair warning, I am going to do that in about 3 minutes. So let's start with all the reasons why you might want to do this. It seems obvious, but having a clear goal is one of the most important factors to success, and it's the one people most often overlook. Try asking an artist what their goals are for finishing a piece of work, and they'll probably give you a blank stare or tell you it doesn't work like that. But honestly, how likely are you to finish something by just muddling through? It takes time to write all those words. A fuckload of time. So having a big word count goal broken down into digestible chunks is a practical and simple solution. It's also incredibly motivating to see yourself succeed against those goals. Recording your daily word count on a chart helps you visualize your progress in a way that isn't always obvious from just glancing at your word processor. And that's a real plus when it comes to sustaining yourself over a lengthy project, because inspiration is fantastic, getting excited by an idea or a story that you just have to tell. But maintaining that level of enthusiasm while you hammer out every single one of those 50,000 words? Nope, no sir, not gonna happen. The world is not waiting for you to finish your novel. No one cares either way. And that can take a lot of the pressure off, which makes it easier to give up partway through. So you have to find a way to manufacture that pressure. And oh boy, does a 30-day deadline come with pressure. Speaking of deadlines, you'll be too worried about hitting that daily word count to worry about whether those words are any good, which is a godsend for overcoming perfectionism. It's easy to get hung up on editing and revising, reading parts you've already written and telling yourself that they suck. Well, guess what? Most first drafts suck. That's why it's called a first draft. Knowing that you have to focus on writing new words instead makes it much easier to tell those negative voices to get in the sea. Not to mention you'll need a disciplined routine if you're going to write that much every day. Have you seen 1,600 words? That's like 5 pages. And you have to do that every single day, whilst doing like normal human shit. It's not easy. So you'll need to become laser focused on carving out time to write. Lastly, writing is a solitary exercise, so making NaNoWriMo friends will help you stay positive and give you a support network. Besides, I can't think of a more writerly way to make friends than by bonding with other writers over the shared trauma of a self-imposed 30-day deadline. This will keep you accountable, since there's nothing like social pressure to force you to meet those word counts. Alright, so I've said some nice things about NaNoWriMo since I felt obligated to act under the pretense that I'm giving this thing a fair, unbiased take. But I'm going to be real with you, forcing yourself to write a novel in 30 days is a terrible idea. So allow me to go off on this unhealthy practice and explain why anyone undertaking this challenge needs their head examined. I promise it's not all doom and gloom though, because I'll also give you an alternative framework to write your novels in a healthy, sustainable way instead. But first, let's have some fun, shall we? Now, for heaven's sake, is writing not stressful enough without giving yourself the pressure of an artificial 30-day deadline? In my experience, writers are a masochistic bunch. We spend far too much time guilt-tripping ourselves for not writing, or for writing the wrong things, or for writing stuff that just isn't very good. This is an unhealthy mindset that NaNoWriMo takes advantage of. It's seductive to think that the problem is just that you're too lazy, and if you got your act together for 30 days, everything will be fine. But let me tell you right now, the problem is not that you're too lazy. You're not a novel machine, and you shouldn't force yourself to act like one. Well, unless you're this guy. But you're probably not this guy. And pretending like you are, and forcing yourself to go from writing not enough, or not at all, to suddenly churning out a novel in 30 days? That's a recipe for exhaustion and burnout. But assuming you don't burn yourself out, the next problem is that NaNoWriMo rewards the wrong things, namely quantity over quality, or writing for the sake of writing. If you're the kind of writer who edits as they go, or spends a lot of time planning, or naturally writes at a slower pace, you're going to find it incredibly demotivating to hit a pure word count goal, no matter how many virtual badges you get or how many milestones you tick off. And imagine you do power through and hit those 50,000 words. Well, I hate to say it, but there's an extremely high chance that those words are wank. I know I said that no first draft is perfect, but you probably want your first draft to be at least useful. If half of it is nonsensical gibberish that you wrote to hit an arbitrary word count goal, have you actually achieved something there? Or have you given yourself an even bigger problem to deal with? And that leads me to my next point. It's not over after 30 days. The alluring pitch of NaNoWriMo is that you could have a complete novel in a month. They list examples on their website as successful graduates of the program. But make no mistake, these novels were not the product of just 30 days. Months of editing and rewriting and planning will have taken place to get those novels into a publishable state. Some people will sign up hoping to have a complete readable piece of work at the end, and not a 50,000 word lump of clay, assuming it is in fact clay and not another squishy brown substance, that they'll need to spend loads of time reshaping and remolding into that final product. And whilst we're talking about unrealistic expectations, the social aspect of NaNoWriMo is a double-edged sword, because you'll likely end up making negative comparisons between your progress and someone else's. Missed your word count one day and seen that your writing buddies hit theirs? You're a piece of shit. Maybe you did hit your word count, but someone else hit theirs by even more. You're still a piece of shit. Art is the height of self-expression, and we tend to feel insecure when we're expressing ourselves. So it's naturally pretty triggering to see someone else express themselves even better than you. Even though, like, why the fuck should it matter? Art is not a competitive sport, it's not a zero-sum game, and yet it's totally normal to feel inadequate in the face of other people's achievements. So just be honest with yourself about your tolerance for seeing other people succeed, because a small amount of external pressure is healthy, but a lot can give you a case of the feel-bads. And finally, if I haven't made this clear already, attempting a novel in 30 days is not a sustainable habit. The whole point of NaNoWriMo is that it's extreme, I get that. It's not meant to be the normal way to write a novel. But in that case, wouldn't it make more sense to just figure out what that normal way is? Doing an extreme challenge risks damaging your relationship with writing, either by exhausting yourself from that 30-day binge, or by accidentally training yourself into thinking that 30-day binges are the only way that you can actually get anything done. It's a marathon, my friend, not a sprint. So what does that marathon look like? How can we build writing success in a sustainable way? Well, at its core, NaNoWriMo does have some good principles you can learn from. Just, don't be an idiot about it. There's something to be said for a deadline that you can't move, whether it's a submission to a critiquing group, a writer's retreat, competitions, or publisher submission windows. Hell, even participating in NaNoWriMo. I know, I just told you not to do that. But the point here is that a deadline should be just one part of your writing strategy. If you have a realistic deadline to get a piece of writing done, and you've factored in time before and after your writing sprint for planning, revision, and rest, then you're much more likely to succeed. And what are deadlines without goals? Whether you're working to a time frame or not, having a goal is a great way to ensure that you make steady progress. Remember that a goal is meant to work for you, not the other way around. So don't set yourself something mental like 2,000 words a day, then beat yourself up when you don't hit that goal. Make your goal achievable, even if it is just 50 words a day. And it doesn't have to be words. I'm not personally a fan of word count goals, if you hadn't guessed. So my goal is time-based. 1 hour every morning. I'm a slow writer, I edit as I go. So rather than punish myself with lofty word count goals that I can't meet, I celebrate the fact that I've made time to write that day. Find a goal that makes you feel good, because that's the key to consistency. And speaking of consistency, build yourself a routine. Don't be afraid to experiment. Are you best in the mornings or in the evenings? Do you prefer to work in a public space like a cafe or a library, or at home? And once you have a routine, you don't have to commit to doing it every single day, just as long as it's something that you stick with consistently and that you manage to do more often than you don't. You're trying to build a habit here, remember, which means it needs to fit into your life and be something that you could do for years without really thinking about it. Because writing is as much about the journey as it is the destination. And like all journeys, it takes time. But you know what doesn't take a lot of time? Hitting that subscribe button. And if you do, for this video only, you'll unlock the secret to becoming a better writer. Spoilers, it's caffeine. Lots and lots of caffeine. Until next time, keep writing.